This week on One Crazy Story, TV writer Jill Lorie Hurst joins us to talk about what it's like to write for a soap opera and win an Emmy.
The Emmy's very heavy.
Yeah.
It's a good weapon.
It's just, you got it right. Yeah. You got it right. Just in case somebody breaks in, it's sharp enough. And
it
you can,
is.
Yep,
Oh, yeah. When the directors won in 94, one of the directors was carrying hers around, and she went to hug one of our actors. It pierced him.
Oh, no.
Drew blood.
Oh, no. I get stabbed with an Emmy.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to another edition of One Crazy Story. I'm your host, Nate Armbruster, and this week I'm talking with TV writer Jill Lorie Hurst. Jill and I met about a year ago. I had this idea for a TV show that I wanted to write, just a silly sitcom pilot, nothing, it was just something creatively I wanted to do. I've never done anything like that before, and I was like, I don't know where to start, even though all you got to do is start typing some stuff. But, that's if you're creative, you understand. I don't know, some people, at least me in particular, I need a kick in the ass sometimes just to get started. And I was determined to get this done, so I just went over to Google, searched, TV writing classes near me, and there I see Jill's picture, her bio, and a little bit about her career, and I was like, she's perfect. She knows what's up. She's done this practically her whole life. She knows exactly where to start. So I took the class, and you know what? I ended up loving it. It was a great class. I completed my pilot. Well, I could probably rewrite it, or, it's always a work in progress, but you know what? I left there. My goal in that class was to leave with a 25-page script, and I left with one, thanks to Jill's guidance and wisdom. So Jill was just the coolest. Got to know her over the course of a few weeks, and I just loved hearing her talk about what it was like to work in the TV industry, right? Specifically, Jill's career, she was a writer on a soap opera called Guiding Light. Now, if any of you are into soap operas, I'm sure you know about it, but if you don't know Guiding Light, it's a legendary one. It's one of the oldest ones. And, over the course of 20 years, you get to do everything from receptionist to head writer to script editor to everything. Jill has done it, and she knows her stuff, and she's awesome. It was so much fun talking to her about what it was like for her and her experience working in this industry. It was so cool. And you know what I love about Jill's story specifically is she didn't even really know. She was just a fan of Guiding Light. And it's one of those things. She moved to New York. She was waiting tables. And, it just kind of fell into her lap one day. And she was like, yeah, I guess I'll take this receptionist job. And, it changed her life forever. So there you go. I feel like if you just go with the flow, especially if you're in an industry like this or anything, really, just kind of go with the flow and, just take the opportunities you can get and see what happens. Over the course, I think one day you'll look back on it and realize that you had a pretty awesome career. And I think Jill's a great example of that. So thank you guys for listening. If you haven't had a chance yet, go on over to iTunes. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Leave a review if you love the show. You can subscribe on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio. Everywhere you can find podcasts, you can find my show, One Crazy Story. Also, I've been getting emails. I didn't know if this would work or not, but it's actually working. I wasn't sure. I mean, I know people are listening. I can see how many people listen. And sometimes it blows me away how many people are actually listening to something I'm putting out in the world. And that makes it so much more fun. But you know what makes it even more fun is if I actually hear from you guys. And so I decided recently to start throwing my email address out there. And you know what? People are actually reaching out to me. That's how I met Steve Lamar, the guest I had on last week. And also, I just got a bunch of emails from a bunch of random people with their awesome stories. So keep sending them. If you want to get a hold of me, if you want to share your story with me, if you want to be on the show, just email me at onecrazystory@gmail.com. You can tweet me, Instagram, Facebook me, all at Nate Comedy or at One Crazy Story. Find out all about the show. Find out about all the past episodes, ask me any questions, talk to me, do whatever it is you want to do, and just keep in touch and enjoy the show. And if you don't want to do any of that, that's fine. Thank you for listening. If you're hearing this, that means you want to be here, and that means a lot. So thank you so much for listening, and enjoy this week's episode with myself and TV writer Jill Lorie Hurst. It's the same way people who talk to me about stand-up comedy as if I've as I walked on the moon, and I'm like, no, it's not that big of a thing that I do. To you, it's like, this has just been my life. But to me, I'm like, I want to do that.
Right.
And you have all the answers because you're the only person that I know.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you become
How
that.
many soap opera writers have you met or whatever? Yeah. No, it's fun. It's fun. I wish I could have talked myself into being a little more of in my head said, I know things, but I'd walk in every day feeling like I should say every class going, I'm sorry. But because like whenever I've been asked, as I said to you earlier, to teach or speak to a group, my road was so random, and the way I found my way to TV was so
because
so
you don't
kooky.
just because you don't just apply to write on a television show. That's something there's not like you can't go to Indeed and like
right,
you know what I mean. We need a writer.
Posted. But some people do it more logically than I did it. I mean, they go to school and study broadcast, or they film school, or they do whatever. They intern.
Yeah, so like a very practical.
Most of my assistants were these great Ivy League young people, fabulous students who then came to intern, and many were very talented. They were all in one way or another, and some ended up writing on the show because once it's like it's sort of a pay it forward. Once
right.
I was given the opportunity, the most fun thing in the world was because I was an assistant, jumping around a little bit. I was an assistant before I became a writer, so it was fun then to help my assistants. But of course, before I was an assistant, really the real reason I got the job, had nothing to do with writing. So.
Yeah, you're like, I just need this job.
Yeah. I was. Whatever I think that there was no rhyme or reason to the way I got there. I do realize that growing up, I was a viewer. I was a soap viewer, and this was in the day before soaps became. I'm old enough that they weren't Luke and Laura glam, big story. They were what my friend Jim Brown calls kitchen sink soap. They're like what we're doing. We're sitting at a table talking. They were stories of people's lives, and issues and love and death and birth and and
usually relatable stuff too.
Very relatable and very simple and black and white and half hour. And my first memory as a little kid was sitting on the floor when Kennedy was assassinated. They broke into As the World Turns, I think, and with Walter Cronkite coming out and saying the president has been, and that's my first memory.
Wow.
As a soap opera. So it kind of, sometimes I think about it, I think, well, it kind of makes sense. Maybe there was some kind of, path. But you
grew up watching these, and
I did, and I loved them.
And you just loved them, and you were a fan. You started as a fan of soap operas.
They provided, as they do for a lot of the audience, a lot of stability too at times in my life that were a little bit crazy. Say it's your parents divorcing, or you were changing your life in some way or another. Anything, they do provide, and I found that really satisfying as a writer too. What it does for them. So, and I'm a fan too. I'm an audience member, so that gave me, a different perspective. But then the writer who comes along and just, soap is a great way to make a living. A lot of writers do it because it's a great.
It is a great job.
It really is a great gig.
Yeah.
And I did it for that reason, certainly. But it was like.
It's a dream job.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, for me,
it pays well, and you love it. How many people get to do that? And how many people go to work and they're like, I'm truly happy with my job and I'm fortunate enough to make a good living doing it.
That's absolutely
that's
right.
Best of both worlds. But and it starts with the being an assistant for you.
Well, it actually, in backtracking one step or two steps, the thing I loved more than soaps was New York City. So when I ended up moving to New York in 1982, and I had family there already, my sister, mom, friends, some people. I left college before I got my degree. I just decided I was done.
Yeah, I'm going to New York.
I'm going to New York, and moved and spent then the first 10 years there waitressing, which my sister worked in the restaurant. I got a job there. Our best friend worked there as well. And so all through the 80s, I was a waitress in the garment district.
Oh, wow.
So I was, waiting on the fashion designer and the people and which is ironic because later I used to wait on Ralph Lauren's people and then went and worked later after Guiding Light, but that's jumping. But anyway, 10 years. I was breakfast and lunch waitress in Times Square in the garment district, and then I would leave work and often go get a ticket to a play. So it was a perfect life. Perfect
that
life.
in itself, you've had like a few dream jobs.
Yeah, I really have.
You get to watch theater, you get to work, you know.
And I love the waitressing. I really liked, I like people, I'm chatty, you know, I'm just, it's cash.
Yeah,
I mean,
totally.
It was great. I lived with roommates and just had that life and had a lot of life was happening in New York in the 80s. Was a tougher time there. You saw a lot of crime and we had a little crime fighting in the restaurant. And then it was also when AIDS became a problem in this country. And I worked with a lot of waiters who actually just friends who died. So, I mean, it's a dark note, but it was life. A lot of life was happening. So I was just living that.
New York was way different than it is now.
It really, I think, it's been over a year since I've been there, so I'm starting to feel like I don't have a right to say but one of my customers at the restaurant, and I'm boring everyone who's ever listened to, if anyone who knows me is listening to this, going, a wonderful woman named Grace Bavaro, who worked in the garment district, used to come in every morning, coffee with milk, plain bagel, not toasted, grape jelly and butter.
Okay. Oh, wow. You still remember her order and everything.
Absolutely. That's waitress. Yeah. And she's a nice lady, talked to me, told me about her kids, her husband, everything. And she said to me, she kind of wanted me to do a little something along with the waitressing. And she said, you should come visit my husband. He works in a studio across town that makes television commercials.
Wow.
And I said, sure. I'm not that. I wasn't a production person. I didn't take broadcasts or anything like that. I didn't know anything. I said, that would be, sure.
At this point, did you have any interest in did you even have a thought to be a writer?
No,
in any facet?
I studied acting in college and I always wrote, but I just wrote little scenes for plays. I was in little theater.
But you didn't want to pursue it, or you had no thought of pursuing it?
I unfortunately lacked that ability to focus, plan, I wasn't doing that. I kind of tend to enjoy most of the time whatever I'm doing.
You were just living life, working. You're just working, enjoying yourself.
Exactly. And she said, well, besides a commercial studio there, they also produce the soap opera Guiding Light. And I think my eyes probably rolled back in my head. And I said, Guiding Light. I've been watching that since I was a kid. Yeah. Because it was really, of the shows, many Procter & Gamble shows that I watched growing up, was probably my favorite. It was my favorite. So anyway.
Yeah, so you're like, absolutely.
I'll come for a tour. So
just to check it out.
Went across town. Her husband arranged for me to sit in on the set and watch the show being taped.
That's so cool.
I know. They asked me if I wanted to meet an actor, and I said, well. I said, is there anybody you want to, I said, well, there was a favorite actor who anybody who watched the show knew and loved, named Michael Zaslow, who played the villain. So as dark.
So as a fan, you're like, oh my God, if I get to meet him.
Yes.
Yeah, you're like,
not knowing, of course, a couple of years later, and then that I would be able to work with him on a daily basis. But anyway, so I had a great day there. This wonderful guy on the crew took care of me all day.
That's so cool.
And and
the ultimate fan treatment.
Oh, it was amazing. And because I was Nick's guest, I was a person to take care of. And they were
VIP.
The people were great. The one thing that all the people there in the soap business, people very much understand that the audience is really important. It's why we have a job. So they're very kind. They're patient. And I tried not to be too much. I was trying to be well behaved and not freak out too much. So that was great. When I left the studio, Nick said, hey, if I can ever help you with a job or something, like you say to anyone, you figure everyone wants to be in the business.
Right.
And I said, thank you. And I left. I went to have lunch or dinner with my dad and sister, I think, that night. And that was, I said, I met Michael Zaslow, and that was the big, I thought it was wonderful.
That was it.
A year later, they called and asked if I wanted to be a part-time receptionist.
Whoa.
Went across town from the west side where I waitressed to the east side where the studio was on East 44th Street. And talked to a man named Thorpe Shuttleworth, who was in charge of the hiring. And he hired me as a part-time receptionist for the whole building. I did that for a year and a half. And then I was probably a third choice for writer's assistant when that job opened
Now,
up.
did they call you out of the blue, or did you keep in touch with these people in any way?
No, Grace in the restaurant. My customer was still in the restaurant.
So
she must have been reminding her husband, I have to think, that she was saying, call Jill. So
without even knowing it, you just being a good waitress.
I owe it all to
the
that.
fact that you owe it all to that coffee with milk and that bagel.
Darn right, grape jelly.
So just by knowing that and just being just living your life, and you met this.
I tell kids when I talk to them, because often when people are really young and you don't have this is not you, which is a good thing. Often people, I'm really a writer, but I have to work at Taco Bell. I'm like, be happy at Taco Bell. You don't know
meet
what's
so many people.
So many people.
Yeah.
Just enjoy what you're doing, because it's a waste of your time if you're going to be
cranky about it. Because then when you get that job, you're still going to be cranky.
That's right. It sort of becomes part of your DNA.
Yeah.
So I was a receptionist, which was amazing. The things that you see when you have that front desk job are unbelievable. Really great. And I knew that if I loved that show before, you never know, you're going to work somewhere and you suddenly find out that everybody's a jerk, and they were great.
It wasn't the case.
They were great. There was one young actress who was less than charming, but other than that, and I ended up working with her and loving her years later, but everyone else was fabulous. I met my husband at the studio.
Did you even, wow.
When I was a receptionist, he was a stage manager, so yeah.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I'm learning.
I told that story, yeah.
Did you at the time when you were working as the waitress and then you finally got this receptionist job, were you still watching the show every,
Yes.
you were keeping up on it too and everything?
I was, because I used to get off work at 2-ish and Guiding Light was on at 3.
Oh, perfect.
So I would mostly make it home to watch Guiding Light, and if I was ever sick or what, I had a 10-day ear infection that leveled me, and I was home for a long time, and that saved me the run of the shows in the afternoon, and ending with Guiding Light. So yes. So, oh my goodness, so this was an amazing opportunity, a gift. If it had just ended with the reception job,
if that's all that happened, you're like, whatever, cool, still pretty awesome.
Yeah, and then the writer's assistant job came along, and I did that for a very long time. I met Tony when I was at the front desk. He used to go up in the elevator, and he would punch the elevator. He would punch 4, which was my floor, but he was and he would act like he'd done it by accident. He'd go very subtle, and he was so very cute. And I'd had another boyfriend at the time, so we didn't date for quite a while, but then we did. I was a receptionist when we got engaged, and I was a writer's assistant when we got married. I got my writer's assistant job right about the time we got engaged. And
how long were you a receptionist before you
about
were?
A year and a half.
Oh, okay.
It was I did that for a year and a half. I did the writer's assistant job for several years.
Yeah. And what does a writer's assistant job entail? Is that
whatever they need?
Yeah, and it pretty much
it's a job
assistant.
It's an assistant, and on a soap, you're an assistant generally to the whole writing team. And that, at the time at Guiding Light, was 12 writers. So, and the show hired me. Jill Farron-Phelps was the executive producer, and Mary O'Leary, a producer, really gave me the job. The head writer at the time was not excited about me at all. And I have to admit, I don't blame her. I was not computer literate. I'd never worked on we were still in the days of modems.
What year was this?
90s.
Yeah, early 90s?
94. I became an assistant. And I made some horrifying mistakes. I have a friend named Courtney Simon, who's a wonderful writer and a great person. At the time, she was a script writer on the show, and I can remember I messed up her stuff so often. The fact that she didn't actively try to get me fired was amazing. It shows her quality. What a great person she is. Anyway, enough people were sort of in my corner. They kind of thought, try to let her settle
see where
in,
this goes.
Crazy lady. So they liked me as a person. I really,
I feel like if you're a nice person, people usually give you some slack on the leash.
Some time. I know. And then I actually ended up working, that first head writer, who I was sure would have me fired. And she ended up getting fired. It happens, and in daytime it happens as a head. When I became a head down the line.
It's still a business. It's still a job.
And you come back. She came back. And the second time she was there, we were fine. We had a very good, and she's a lovely, lovely person. But it was good exercise to have to survive knowing that you might not be able to stay.
I think it's safe to say that pretty much anywhere you're writing, it's like that.
Oh,
I don't think,
that's so true.
And it's not for good or bad. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So,
and even
you
if
just
you're
got to.
a showrunner or creator, I mean, then you've got the network or whomever.
Yeah, you get a new boss.
For.
They might not. I'm going to bring my own people in.
Yeah,
whatever. I mean, it's nothing personal. It's just how the business works.
It's really not. And as I get older, I realize that the first time it happens to you, and it did happen to me a couple times at Guiding Light, where the head writing team changed. And as it changed, the need for my particular job, but anyway, changed.
Yeah,
and so
constantly changing too.
Ooh, yeah.
And when you're talking about just the changes in the over a decade or two, that just how things are made. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
some people just become obsolete. Some jobs do.
So true. That happened by the end of the show. That happens, and it happens as it's. A fact of life, especially in this business. It's definitely a fact of life. The way television is made now is different than it was when I was doing it, and so that it's crazy. But the assistant job is a good way to see what the business is about. It's funny, crazy hours. I realized at one point I was probably making a little under $2 an hour for the hours
when you really did the math.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm lucky to have a husband who always was very cool about television. His family, that's their family business. So he got it. He
understood.
Knew what it was. He did other things too. A lot more in the business than I've done actually. But a few years in, my friend Nancy Williams-Watt, who's the editor, just decided to put me and a young man named David Kreisman together as a writing team. Dave didn't need a writing partner. He needed not at all. But it was at the time they weren't really hiring men as script writers. They thought that only women could write women, only young people could write young people. It's not true. Writers can write.
Sure.
But so it helped him to have a socially
voice
accepted. Exactly.
Yes, a female voice in the room.
It's so funny because often people thought that he would write I said, do you think he's going to write like the car chase or whatever? And I'm going to write the emotional. No, he's a very emotional writer. He's actually,
Well, yeah, anybody who gets a job writing on a soap opera, I would imagine at least has those basic
every now and then,
the basic necessity,
Yeah, but Dave he was great. So we wrote together, and then he started working full time on his own as a scriptwriter. And when Nancy decided to leave, I got bumped up to become a script editor before I was remotely qualified to do such a thing. But I was in the right place, and.
Yeah, you just got to take it. You're like,
I showed up. Yeah, often that was the case.
So you went from writer's assistant to script editor?
I did script writing with Dave for a brief period of time and a couple on my own, and then a script editor, which was kind of a big jump.
Different.
But there was a the thing is, the people surrounding me were so good. I think they thought they could take a chance, and if I was horrible, they'd either help me become better. Basically, that's been the theme. Oh, it's kind of, and... the executive, Paul Rausch, is a man who gave me a lot of chances while I was at Guiding Light to do a lot of things. He's a big, larger-than-life kind of guy. And the head writers at the time, Jim Brown and Barbara Essenson, really generous, kind people who figured, they just figured we could all do it together. So anyway, script editing is interesting, and that's actually probably my favorite job. Not that I ever felt I really mastered it.
Isn't it funny how it ends up, looking back on it, you're like, I liked it a lot.
I really
But it was also like the hardest and most stressful thing you ever had to do. The worst. There are times when, as the head writing regimes changed, my job would change. Every now and then, I was almost fired twice. That I know of. I mean, there could have been 10 more times. Twice that you know of.
Twice I know of. And they just flipped me over to another job. I became a breakdown writer, which is the thing I was totally maybe the worst at. Writing the outlines that then become scripts, because daytime is like...
You send these to the writers and then they write
they become a script. And I wasn't good at that at all. And but I got to do it a couple times. Every now and then I was okay at it. But
that's so cool.
Yeah.
On a timeline, where are you at when you're a script editor? Is it still, because how fast do you move up that ladder? It just in your career. Because
maybe a year after I started script writing, and then I script edited for a couple years. Then I went to a breakdown for a year, then back to editing, and then back to breakdowns. Yeah. And then I became something called a story producer, which is a job sort of created for me because they probably didn't have the heart to fire me again, and they were reducing the size of the writing team. And that also, jumping forward, gave me a legal job during the writer's strike.
Oh, yeah.
Which was, and I felt very lucky and very guilty.
Yeah, well, but you can't plan for that. But you just got lucky.
I got very lucky. At the time, the executive producer. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, how many people are gonna? I understand because you know what it's like to be a writer, and all your friends are writers, and they're all stressed out. Going through this writer strike, and you're just
I'm working. Yeah.
Would you guys quit? No.
Yeah.
I mean, I still got to eat.
Well, it was very interesting because when I got that job and there was a looming strike, I mean, we kind of, and I'm
saw it coming.
Huge fan of the Writers Guild has been really good to me and good to everyone in our business of all the soap. It's great. So I knew I wouldn't write during the strike, but I was worried when I got the story producer job. My boss, is Ellen Wheeler, who gave me this job. Anyway, long story short, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in the studio. They're going to ask me to write. I'm going to have to say no, and then I'm going to get fired.
Oh, man.
But, Ellen Wheeler, to her credit,
never asked.
Never asked. She told the other producers on the show, because there's a team of producers. She had a number of really amazing people who produced the show under her EP time. And she said, don't ask Jill to write. She can, So as a result, during the strike, and I mean, I watched people, all the young people who were writers on our show. Some of them have just bought houses. Some of them, it was awful, and they stuck with it. They were out on the picket line. They were amazing. Anyway, I did a lot of refrigerator cleaning and visiting one of our CBS executives had surgery, and we went and took him lunch. I did a lot of busy work besides my producer, but no writing. And I was about ready to, there's something you can do called Phicorp where you give up certain rights in the guild and you can write legally. And I thought maybe I should do it because the strike was going on for a long time and the show was struggling a little. And two producers, Chris Cullen and Jen Sims, two young people, said, don't do it, Jilly. Don't do it. You've stuck to it this long. So I was always lucky to have a good voice when I was wobbling and thinking, well, should I, and I didn't have to. The strike ended. Anyway, so and I was a story producer. And then shortly after that, that's when my former partner, Dave Kreisman, my first partner, he's much younger than, he's between your age and my age, was the head writer at the time. And he'd been it for a long time, and it's a burnout job. So they were looking to mix things up a little bit, and they love Dave. He's great. But they added 3 of us into the mix as his co-head writers. Poor guy. So there were 4 of us then. And so I became a co-head writer for the last year of Guiding Light.
All right. So you worked your way up from receptionist to co-head writer.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I mean, that just.
Well, they just couldn't. I was like gum on their shoe. They couldn't get rid of me. They couldn't.
Still though. I mean, and it's at your favorite television show.
Yes.
Like what
I am the luckiest.
And you're
person in that industry.
How many people can say that? Even in your industry,
no,
as a writer,
actually,
how many people?
Probably nobody.
It's it's amazing that you were there over a course of what, 20 years?
Almost 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, lucky, and I can see the eye rolls of some of my colleagues going, yeah, lucky, all right, oh my God, they let her stay, but I was lucky and I loved it there every until they deactivated my ID at CBS. I mean, I was just very lucky.
What year did the Emmy come about?
Our Emmy win was 2007. I got to go from the time I was a receptionist. It's another thing. I'm an award show junkie.
Yeah,
my husband, that's
one
of the ways that he won me over was on our third date. He'd asked me out for, I think, a third date. And I said, I can't go out because I have to go home and watch the Soap Opera Digest Awards. Betty Ray, who was our beautiful casting director, cast Allison Janney, who's now an Oscar nominee.
Look at that.
Oh, yeah. She was on Guiding Light.
That's so funny. That's a great excuse, but also knowing that you work, it's like, no, I've got to go watch my friends real quick. It's not as... You're able to mask it with, these are my colleagues.
These are my colleagues. I know it sounds like a business thing that I have to watch. Anyway, but Tony came over and watched the award show. Then I used to watch the daytime Emmys, and then I got to go.
So you got to go, because with the daytime Emmys, and that's all the soaps.
Yeah, it's all the soaps, game shows, children's programming, talk.
So you're essentially, you're pretty much in the running every
You aren't. It isn't all the shows. You usually 4 shows are nominated, maybe 5. I don't know. If now there are only 4 shows, but I mean at the time there were 9 when I started, and 4 I think would generally get nominated. Maybe 4 or 5 actors, 4 or 5 everybody
Sure.
in that sense.
So in a sense, you got good odds every year to at least go, right?
Yeah, well, at Guiding Light, we learned to be very gracious losers because we had many That's a competitive. I mean, you're up against they're all legendary shows. People, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, but it's like I always talk about these. The daytime Emmys are really fun. They're like a big dress-up family picnic.
It's like adult prom.
Oh yeah,
it is. We got to get the dress, the shoes, the hair, the nails.
My friend Alex Johnson Gamzee, one of the producers, and we started together. She was an assistant at the same time I was a receptionist, and our yearly things to just go do our hair for the Emmys were like comedies or tragedies, depending on the outcome. But so it was always really fun. When I went to my first Emmys, several actors won, including Michael Zaslow, the actor I'd met on that first visit. And it was beautiful. It was really wonderful. And then there were years where no one so we really... We just learned to have fun at the party, Yeah. I mean, we really...
Isn't that really the reason to go, though? The party, kind of?
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. You like that award, but...
But it's fun to run.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is. And the funny thing is, if anyone from your show wins, a lovely actor named Peter Herman coined the phrase, the tribal win. He was on Guiding Light for a while. He's married to Mariska, who's... SVU, her husband. He's a good guy, and we had one young actor win the year he was with the show, and we were all beside ourselves. It had been ages, since we.
This is a big deal.
It was and he said it's a tribal win. If anyone, it's just.
Yeah,
it's us.
The show
it's team
wins.
Absolutely. And even when our sister soap, As the World Turns, if they had a win, it was exciting for us because we were all we bowled together. We had our stuff. It was the team. So. But then the shows went from New York out to LA in 2006, and I wasn't even going to go because I was like, I've been nominated a few times, and it was always really fun, And you have that moment when you're nominated where you think maybe, maybe you're gonna. And Dave and I would often be sitting next to each other, and he'd look at me and go, "Don't look like that." He's like, "Don't even look at me like maybe," because no, we're not. One year I took my sister, and it was one of my favorite memories in the world because as they announced our category, my sister, who was sitting between me, Dave, and Danielle Page, my sister started to fold up her shawl and her bag and move because she was so sure we were going to win. It makes me cry. She was moving so Dave could get,
right. Let me make some room.
We didn't win. It was great, yeah. But anyway, so we've been nominated, and it was really fun. We won a Writers Guild Award in 2004 or 5 when Dave was the head writer, and that was great. Then we went to LA for the Emmys. I wasn't going to go, and then Ellen said, "No, we bought your ticket. You have a hotel. You're going."
Yeah.
And I loved. Actually, I got there. I didn't really.
Was this your first time going to LA?
I'd been to LA about 20 years before on a trip with an old boyfriend, and I didn't like it. It was just like a big traffic
you were basically
jam.
and you were basically just touristy. You weren't like going.
It wasn't fun. But to work, it was. By the first night we were there, we landed. I hadn't flown either since 9/11.
Oh, wow.
It was my first flight.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
All the actors were like, "Oh, great, I have to be on her flight." Oh, what? They thought I was like screaming, And I remember Ron Raines trying to make me. I turn around and one of our actors is just looking at me, he's laughing, And anyway, got there. LA to me was like Detroit with palm trees, like industrial, one business town kind of thing, And by that night, my friend Chris Dunn took a couple of us out to dinner, and I came out of the restaurant. I said, "I love Hollywood," and I really did. I kind of fell in love with it. It was great.
There's something romantic about
very
it. Is
romantic
that like
and
where
very
it's like
gritty at the same time? We were in cheesy downtown Hollywood.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Yeah,
I looked up from my hotel room out on onto the Hollywood sign. I was like,
This is, yeah, right?
Yeah, and that year, 4 of our actors won. That was in 2006, and that was dazzling. Especially, it was just wonderful. We had
Because you guys
win.
Because you go, how many people go? Like the whole show?
When
like
we have
everything
enough nominations, P&G, whoever's paying the way will pay for lots of people to go.
So it's like the writers, the actors,
writers, directors, whoever's nominated gets to go, and then sometimes you'll pay for. Dave and I took our assistants. We just paid for them because in the day you could just do
that's
that
so cool.
And take them out. It was so fun.
As one individual writer, are you nominated as an individual, or is it the team? You know what I mean?
So the poor head writer who probably did the episode that they love. You
could argue who wrote, whatever.
But it really is a collaborative
So you all get
effort.
to go and so you're sitting with all the writers and all of the actors at one big table. You guys all get to sit together and everything?
Yeah. If there's a dinner, we're all together or whatever. And in LA, it was at the Kodak Theater, which has a different name now, I think. But the Nokia, maybe
I can't remember.
You're at the hotel, which is right there, and then red carpet, which is always one way or the other, and it's pretty hot there. In New York, it's sometimes raining, sometimes chilly, but in LA, a couple times I was there, or 3 times, it was pretty hot. Anyway, and the first time I was a producer at the time, and I was corralling actor. I had Frank and Liz, 2 of our actors. I had to corral them along the red carpet, make sure they got in time.
Still working.
Yeah,
Still
you're working. It's but it's fun. It's fun work. And they won. We had an actor who'd had a lot of problems over the years, addiction issues and stuff like that. Very open about it. Very great. He'd come and gone from the show a couple of times, and he's a wonderful actor named Jordan Clark. And when he won, and he's older. He was, older than the average supporting actor nominee. He was usually the young hot guy, whatever. And Jordan is like just a force, just a wonderful guy. But he's the odd duck in the group. And when they said Jordan Clark, because he was known in the industry and an actor and it was just like one of those amazing
The whole room
moments.
lit up.
The room did. It really did. And it was a brilliant win. So that was an amazing thing. So it was, but that wasn't, we didn't win but can't get greedy. That was fabulous.
Yeah.
2007, a bunch of nominations again. LA again.
So this is
same
the second
hotel,
year in a row.
Second year in a row. All kinds of stuff went to LA. Really fun. Again, all cool. As one of my young friends, Kimberly Hamilton, who was on the team at the time, and she said that was like the perfect day because we woke up in the morning. Dave and his wife took me out to breakfast, and then I saw all the young people having breakfast together, and I bought their breakfast because they were out. And it was like this great day of
just a ton of fun.
Baby. Yeah, right, exactly. All the fun when you're lucky enough to work in that kind of job. The hardest part of your day is making sure that somebody gets your hair done in time. But I had to leave that night. Tony's nephew was getting married in South Carolina the next day. I was leaving LA on the red eye. So I was going to be leaving after the Emmys, jumping into a car and going to LAX and flying to South Carolina. But I got to go, and we're all there. We had our picture taken on the steps of the hotel. Before you leave, I'll just say, there we are. Yeah. And people say, you look so happy. You just won an Emmy. I said, no, we were just all happy that we were all showered at the same time and on the steps. And 3 of our actors from the show were presenting the writing award that year. They had 3 guiding light, beautiful young people presenting it. And I was talking to the actor who was with the 2 young women, Murray Bartlett, lovely Australian actor, gorgeous. And he was a lovely person. And he said, well, I might, and I can't do an Australian accent at all. I might be giving you an Emmy tonight. And I said, and you probably are not going to be giving me an Emmy. So I said, the thing is, Murray, when you open the envelope and it says General Hospital, you can't say General Hospital. You have to be, you have
to be excited about it.
Yes, whoever it is. And so it was, we're there. And the night, nobody was winning that night from Guiding Light. No actors won. So we're relaxing. Right. Basically, we took off our shoes. I was sitting in the back with 2 of my co-head writers with Lucky and Chris.
And you would think too, part of where you're sitting too, doesn't that make you go, if we're all the way back here. We're all the way back here. We don't need to. Who's going to make this many people run through a crowded theater?
Because that's true. They very much usually seat the winners or who they think are on the aisle.
Whenever I watch them, I'm like, it's a good thing he didn't have to hop over anybody that gets to the aisle.
And sometimes they do at the Golden Globes. They make you do a long
It's a huge production. It's a long show. They got to keep it moving.
When Dick Clark used to produce the daytime Emmys, he had us moving the first daytime Emmys I went to, that's what I learned. I learned that the handheld camera guys would go in, and I'd go,
yeah. Why are they walking over toward us?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, we thought no way, and we're
point,
relaxed.
You're
just hanging. I know I have to get a car in a little while, and I'd called my sister, and my friends were watching. My friend Carrie, my friend Margie and Susie. They were watching at I think Margie and Susie's apartment in Detroit, downtown. And I said, go home.
Yeah.
This is, don't stay up all night, and don't worry about it. It was the commercial break right before our category. And our actors came out, and we weren't paying any attention. Right. So when they opened the envelope, I've had to go back and watch it on YouTube, which is great. Believe me, I've watched it many times.
That's hilarious.
When they open the envelope and there you go, guiding light, and I don't think we heard. And Natasha Kreisman, the head writer's wife, was sitting a little bit back near us because she let Dave and his co-head writer at the time sit down. So she said, go, go. And we're just like,
you're like, us for real?
Yeah, us. And you run, and you can just, all you see of me on the YouTube is just a flash of blonde hair. And I think I hugged Frank DeCopoulos, who's one of my friends of the actors, one of my oldest friends. And it was just, it was great.
So you're running up. Are you guys? You're all barefoot.
I was. I don't know. I wonder if any of the other girls were. I know I was.
Shoes back on.
Oh my gosh, it was crazy. And then you have to go backstage. They take all your pictures and your, whatever. And we went back, and then the show won. We tied with Young and the Restless, but we won. So
wow. So we
did again.
Yeah, right. So you got to. You're like, that's so. What a great night.
It was really fun. Yeah, it was a great night for the show. And then right after that happened, I had to be almost. I hugged my friend Alex, and then I had to run to the room. I was literally kind of undoing as I ran.
You're like changing
and
as
threw my
you're
dress.
running.
Luckily, I had an easy dress. Threw it in my bag and got a car and got to LAX, and I had a burrito and a margarita in the LAX bar before I got on the plane. And my husband hadn't.
He didn't know what was going on. He was probably busy with family.
He was with family. He was going to meet me at the Charlotte airport, so was going to stay at a motel near there the night before. So he was on the highway with trucks all around him. He'd watched so many of these before.
Right.
He went with me once.
At this point, it's just it's
nice, have fun.
Yeah, she's
he
working.
Sends flowers. He's he's really cool. But I remember calling him and going, I won. He's like, I'm in traffic. There are trucks at you. And he's like, he couldn't even talk to me. I'm like,
he's like, I'm trying to.
I try not to get killed here. And he didn't until maybe even the next day didn't realize that we actually, who won or whatever.
That's so funny.
It was
funny.
So
cool.
It was fun, but it's really fun. It's the Emmy's very heavy.
Yeah.
It's a good weapon.
It's just, you got it right. Yeah. You got it right. Just in case somebody breaks in, it's sharp enough. And
it
you can.
Is. Yep, when the directors won in 94, one of the directors was carrying hers around, and she went to hug one of our actors. It pierced him. Drew blood.
Oh no. I get stabbed with an Emmy.
Yeah. So
that's so cool though. Like fun. To think I just thinking about how many people get to say that they've experienced that. And especially in your story too, because this was throughout your whole career has just been something it's like a dream, and then it finally happens, and the fact that it wasn't so we showed up, our shoes were on, we were ready to go. The fact that it was almost chaos, but it was amazing.
Kind of the story of my life. I showed up, I didn't have my shoes on.
But it makes it so much more memorable. I think the fact that you have to go, and even your husband, even your husband's like, "What? You won? I'm trying to. I'm just, I'm in the middle lane right now. I'm trying. I don't know where I'm at. We didn't have GPS. Wasn't in everybody's pocket at that time. He's like, I don't. That's great. Can we talk later?
Yes.
You know what I mean? That whole, but it makes it so much more fun to go look back on, I think. Yeah.
It's so true. Yeah. That's the other reason I feel so lucky. I sometimes am embarrassed that I wasn't more strategic, wasn't more prepared. Probably it would have served me well going forward.
Sure, but sometimes those people aren't fun.
That's right. That's how I choose to look at it. Right. They're all giving me the finger right now. They know who they are. You know who you are, you prepared people.
I don't know anybody, so I can.
You can make.
I'll say it.
All right. But no, but it's some of the best things have come along for me, not only there, but even going forward. When I say I got somebody wanted to back a project because I met him in the dog park,
right.
or I just, you have to kind of be open. I
just got to go with it.
Yeah.
Just got to keep doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
It's not crazy.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Jill.
Thank you for letting me tell the story of my crazy life. So I appreciate it.
Anytime.
It's fun.